Hello friends, today we will be discussing the topic of friend function. So let me just write it. Friend function. So friend function is a function inside a class which has a declaration inside a class but can be only accessed outside a class. And the main feature of this function is that like inheritance, it can access both the public, private and also protected variables of a class. But in inheritance, only protected, comma, private, sorry, protected and public variables can only be accessed, while in friend function, both public, protected as well as private variables can be accessed outside the function. So that's the main use of this friend function, and let me just uh, write the basic definition. It is a function outside declared class but non-member function, also we can call, because it is outside a class, which can access the non-public, that is private, comma protected, which is the main motive, private. I'm afraid of the spelling. Protected variables or functions of the class. That's the theory to it, and let me just give you the basic glimpse. So in C++, by the way, suppose there is a class A and it has a private variable, suppose integer A declared, and also let us assume there is a protected variable int B. Now yes, now if I inherit this A class to another class B, so that is what I'm writing here, class B inheriting class A in public mode, public A, and let me just write a function which can print both the declared variables. Leave the syntax. Cout A and also B. Let us assume. So this is a class A Let me just zoom down so you can see. This is a class A and class B is inheriting the class A, and it has class A has two variables, so it will also inherit them in public mode class A. But when this class B is inheriting the class A, it can only access the protected variables. So when we run this function inside the main, suppose for B there is an object O1 I created, and if I access the print function, this is the print function. Now this print function will call this, and it will print the values of AB. But as we can see, A is private variable inside the class A. Even though it is inherited in public mode, the private variables won't be inherited, and it will not be able to access, class B will not be able to access the private variable of A. So this one won't print. As this one won't print, it will be compiler error. Compilation error, because it cannot access and its visibility is outside the range because it is a private variable, but it can access the B because it is in protected mode. Class B can access variable B but cannot access variable A. So in order to solve this problem, our friendly um, friend function comes. So what this does is, there is a class A, right, and it has private variable A int A, and there is a function outside the class. So I'm writing the same print function which we have previously seen. Now this will print only A, as we have no need of the protected for now. And if I try to, and in order for this print to be the friend function inside A, we must declare the syntax here, which is friend keyword. Let me just change the color so you can understand. Friend void print. This is the definition. This line is the definition to class A, that we are specifying that there is a function, print function, which is friend of ours, and this friend function can access both private and public and every variable inside the class A. The friend keyword specifies that, and this is the function definition and this is the function declaration. And if I try to, inside main, if I try to, wait, for every class to access its variables, we need to create an object. So I need to create an object here first. Let me just write it here only. Class is object o1, and o1 dot a, because in order to access class variables we must specify that it belongs to the class A. That's why we created an object of A, class A, and then access that A. But if we do the same thing in our previous class B, when it is previously inherited class B, public A, and if I try to inside it, if I try to print function o1 dot a, inside any function, if I try to print this variable a, then it won't work because this variable is private and inheritance doesn't support private inheritance. So that's why this won't work. But in here, this o1.a will be printed at the output when I call this print function directly, because I have declared the object in here inside the function only, so there is no need to create explicit object here. And if I try to access o1.a, then it will print. That's the basic difference between inheritance and friend function. That's why friend function is used. Let me just show you the code so that you can understand. So guys, as you have seen the code previously, I just typed it. So this is class and it has a variable height, and it has, I have specified the value initially, or you can give inside some function inside here only. You can take the input for class A's height and it will work instead of initializing here. So let me just briefly explain. This class has height variable which is private, and I have declared the function print as a friend function. So if I create an object of o1 and if I take the input of height, even though it is private, I can directly take the input as height, input of height inside this function. Normally this will give error because outside class we cannot access private variables. I hope you can see. Yes, outside class we cannot access private variables. So if this is not a friend function, then this should turn out to be error. Yeah, but if because this is a friend function, it can access both the private variables and also protected. That's why we can take the input here and I can directly print the height value here. So I call the print function outside the main. Leave this, I will come to this part later. Inside the main function I call the print function, which is here. Print function, there is an object declared for a, and o1 can access the height and it will print it. So let me just run it. So it's asking for input. I will give some value 45 and it's printing the value for height 45. Now if I do the same thing with a class, other class, which is not a function or anything, but it inherited, let me just remove all this, and this is a class A and this is class B. Class B inherited class A in public mode, and it has and it should inherit the private variables also, but they are private so they cannot be accessed. So if I try to access the height variable which is inside class A and inherited, then this is giving error because the compiler will detect this is error, and for convenience I will just run it, and as you can see this is error. But if I declare this as a protected variable and initialize some value, suppose 20, as you can see the print function is able to access the height when it is protected. But in private, let me just run it and show you. Where is the output? Oh sorry, I will create object for B and call the print function for this. See, it is able to print the output because it is in protected mode, and inheritance can only access the protected and public variables. But if I change this to private, then it won't work. Yes, so that's the basic difference between this inheritance and a friend function. Friend function is able to overcome the limitation of this inheritance. That's why we use friend function, as it is able to access the private variables of a class outside the class. And that's it. Thank you for watching.